China has rained ballistic missiles into waters around the self-ruled island of Taiwan. The live fire exercise, part of military drills described by Chinese state media as a rehearsal for war, a direct retaliation for U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan this week. On this first of 4 days of drills, Taiwan reported missiles fired near its outer islands. Taipei says its troops are increasing their alert levels. At least 2 of the missiles passed near the Matsu Islands. These are located close to mainland China and therefore close to Chinese troops. Also, rumors of an aircraft carrier with its entourage of vessels joining the fray. A nuclear-powered submarine is said to be among that group. Closer to Taipei, at least 11 ballistic missiles landed in the island's northern and eastern waters. China's military says it fired Dongfeng rockets and hit targets accurately. Taiwan says it activated defense systems and tracked those projectiles. The foreign ministry slammed Beijing for imitating North Korea with reckless missile testing. It's not just a display of Beijing's long-range capabilities. Military helicopters flew past Pingtan Island, as one of mainland China's closest points to Taiwan. Loud explosions also heard in the area. All these activities over the Taiwan Strait have caused some countries to cancel flights over the region. The national airlines of Korea and Thailand have suspended trips to Taiwan. Meanwhile, Singapore's carriers are avoiding flying in certain parts around Taiwan. The Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore says local carriers have acknowledged China's advisory to avoid some areas as part of their standard operating procedures.
Well, China's show of force raising fears of military conflict with Taiwan. The island also came under a massive cyber attack during Ms. Pelosi's visit. CNA's Victoria Jen tells us more.
Reports about Chinese military drills are splashed across local television news and newspapers, raising fear of a potential military conflict in the Taiwan Strait. These exercises are widely seen as a retaliation against the island for hosting U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's whirlwind visit. China's military has carried out long-range firing and precision strikes at specific areas in the eastern part of the Taiwan Strait. The drills are spread out across 6 locations. 3 of China's 6 live-fire drills overlap with sea claimed by Taiwan. Beijing viewed Ms. Pelosi's visit as a provocative move and threatened its military would not sit idly by. On Wednesday, 27 Chinese warplanes flew over Taiwan's air defense zone, and 22 of them even crossed the median line. Taiwan's foreign ministry says it will strengthen its self-defense capabilities, and it will closely coordinate with the U.S. and like-minded countries. But for the mass public, it appears to be business as usual. Most Taiwanese don't seem to be intimidated by Beijing's latest military intimidation.
我不会害怕，因为如果这时候那个还展现出害怕的话，那我们对于自由或民主的喜爱，应该，我相信台湾人应该是不害怕。
大家做好准备，然后该过的日子还是要继续过。对啊。
不会害怕吗？
不会啊，如果真的发生了，那就上吧。
This week, Taiwan has also been hit by a series of cyber attacks, though it's not confirmed who was responsible. According to the Taiwanese cabinet, the frequency of cyber attack on August 2nd, the day of Ms. Pelosi's visit, was the highest. Electronic boards at Kaohsiung's railway station in southern Taiwan, for instance, were hit by cyber attack, calling Ms. Pelosi an old witch that challenged sovereignty of China. Taiwan's government agencies appear to be the primary targets.
确实，在这段时间，攻击的流量是过去的2倍左右。那么最高就是8月2号，攻击流量已经是往日单日最高的23倍之多。
Meanwhile, China has banned over 100 food imports from Taiwan and suspended citrus fruits and 2 types of fish. Analysts warn that China may impose more trade sanctions, which could hurt the island's economy. China is Taiwan's biggest market, accounting for more than 40% of the island's total exports. Victoria Jen, CNA, Taipei.
Also hearing that Japan's defense minister has lodged a protest against China. According to reports, Tokyo claims that 5 missiles fired by China landed within Japan's exclusive economic zone. Meanwhile, China has taken a swipe at the G7, accusing its members of hypocrisy over their stance on Taiwan. Olivia Xiong joins us live from Beijing. Olivia, China angered reportedly by a G7 statement on Taiwan, with its foreign minister calling off a meeting with Japan. Why?
Well, China clearly making it clear where its bottom line is with Taiwan. And with regard to that meeting, there had been plans for Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to meet his Japanese counterpart on the sidelines of those ASEAN meetings taking place in Cambodia. But then the G7 countries released that statement. The G7 countries, of course, including Japan and the US, and clearly angering China. In the statement, it had criticized China for increasing tensions and destabilizing the region, saying that the visit cannot be a justification and pretext for aggressive military activity in the Taiwan Strait, and that it's routine for legislators from their countries to travel internationally. Now, China, angered by this, we saw Mr. Wang hitting back, issuing angry comments, saying the G7 countries had confused right from wrong and had groundlessly, it said, accused China of acting when these military exercises, it says, were reasonable and legitimate step to safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Instead, Mr. Wang pointed the finger back at the U.S., saying it was the U.S. That is causing tensions in the region, and that this blatant provocation, he described it as, had set a bad precedent. Now, China's foreign ministry at its daily briefing was also asked about this and had some stern words as well.
如果这几个国家真的关心台海和平稳定，他们就应该早一点劝阻美方不要对中国采取危险而鲁莽、不负责任的挑衅。佩洛西串访台湾之前，他们装聋作哑、默不作声，现在却跳出来对中国采取正义行动横加指责，他们的虚伪和丑恶的嘴脸暴露无遗。
And the fallout is likely to continue. A short while ago, as you mentioned, we had seen Japan reporting that some of the missiles fired by China had landed in its exclusive economic zone. Now, this is likely to cause tensions. We await China's response to this. But yesterday, we had seen at the foreign ministry briefing that Japan had already raised concerns with China. It said that it was worried that these live fire drills were taking place in this exclusive economic zone. But China's response yesterday was that it rejected Japan's claims, saying that the two countries had not officially delineated the boundaries in the regional waters, and so it felt that Japan's claims held no ground. So likely we are going to continue to see this develop as the days go on.
Meanwhile, another part of this attack, Olivia, China saying it has conducted precision missile strikes in the Taiwan Strait. Or did that actually happen? And if it did, is it laying the ground for a full-fledged attack?
Well, perhaps to answer that question, Wei Su, we can first look at what the official response is. The Chinese Defense Ministry, in a statement, made it very clear that the joint drills being held and circling Taiwan are exactly aimed, it said, to deter what it says is collusion between the United States and Taiwan. Now, in Chinese state media, we have seen extensive coverage of these military drills, constant updates being fed throughout the day. In Chinese state media and the broadcaster, CCTV video footage of the military drills taking place have been screened throughout the day as well. Military experts that have been interviewed also said the success of the drill shows that China can act if it wanted to militarily, and perhaps also playing to the domestic audience, given that this is a politically sensitive time ahead of that key Communist Party Congress where Chinese President Xi Jinping is after a third term in power. There's a concerted effort to make sure that China does not look weak, and much of the focus of Ms. Pelosi's visit and the subsequent military drills has been on China's military show of strength. And the emphasis has really been that these military drills are unprecedented, taking place very close to Taiwan's coast, also crossing that median line, being able to encircle Taiwan, effectively setting up a blockade. Also, what experts are saying is that this is signaling to other countries that China is able to act militarily if it wants to. So hard to say what is to happen, but experts also saying that China is very mindful that it does not want to take things too far, as war would not serve its interests as well.
Thanks to Olivia Xiong with that update for us in Beijing.
His visit to Taiwan hasn't only touched off a flurry of military activity around Taiwan, it's also prompted a scramble among nervous politicians in the US Capitol. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Kate Fisher joins us live now for more. Kate, the White House is reportedly lobbying against efforts to deepen ties with Taiwan. Do we get a sense that there is a shift in US policy? Is it imminent?
Well, if you listen to officials on the world stage, then no, it is not. Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, speaking at the ASEAN summit, saying our policy has not changed, putting the onus on China, saying that it is China that is trying to change the status quo when it comes to Taiwan. And certainly Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, also publicly saying that there is no change in policy, yet we understand from reports that privately he and other members of that team were very concerned, had deep reservations about Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan and were trying to seek ways to dissuade her from doing so. But the official line from the White House is that nothing has changed and that Nancy Pelosi is an independent actor who can do whatever she wishes. Certainly, it's the White House and Washington as a whole appears to be less concerned than it has been in the past about offending China and less concerned about being deferential to its demands on Taiwan. And if you look at Washington as a whole, it has actually Nancy Pelosi's trip that triggered all this got bipartisan support. There were many Republican senators who supported the Democratic House Speaker going to Taiwan, and it's a rare moment in Washington when Republican senators support Nancy Pelosi.
Well, Kate, China is the top pacing threat as far as US strategy in the Indo-Pacific. How prepared, though, is the United States for further military escalation here?
Well, they have deployed numerous naval and other military equipment to the area. You've got the USS Ronald Reagan and its battleships in the area. Obviously, they are monitoring the situation. The Pentagon says its assessment is that they believe that China is trying to intimidate and coerce rather than trigger a full-scale escalation. But clearly the danger of that happening is huge. And ASEAN, again, have put out a statement saying that they're really concerned about it and they have offered to facilitate talks between the two sides. The US has got a very difficult line to tread here. They have to not fold to China's demands and intimidation, but at the same time not do anything to escalate things further. They're hoping that the Chinese don't want to see any military escalation either, and they're kind of banking that this is kind of a show of force that will end after a few days. But if it doesn't, they are going to have to work out what they do, whether this ends up turning into some kind of blockade of Taiwan. That will be a real challenge to the Americans.
Kate, thank you for that. Kate Fisher in Washington, D.C.